Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor, and this is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from Houston, Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, be it bongs, blunts, or I can't think of any of the other things right now, I'm too high. Smoke it if you've got it. And welcome to another Game Lunch review. This one is kind of late, I know. I had intended to do this episode with my buddy Ian, who's been on the show before. But he ended up having other games to play, and then, Oblivion Remastered came out, and he's going to be on the Oblivion episode. Yes, we're going to do an Oblivion episode, don't worry. That's why this feels so late, especially too, because there's just so many other games coming out right now that are just even bigger news for a lot of people. But that's okay. We're finally here. I really wanted to do this episode, and so I'm going to do it solo. This is going to be our solo episode of the year. Actually, it probably won't be the only one, because I don't know if anybody is going to be with me for Expedition 33 and 100 Line. Yeah, I want to make that a Game Lunch episode too, a double feature. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Man, I have been waiting for this game. Now, admittedly, my hype for the Assassin's Creed franchise has died a little bit since I've played, well, honestly, better games. But, I mean, this franchise has been with me since I was a child. I've played through... I've played at least a little bit of all of the mainline games. I own all of the mainline games. And I've completed at least a few of them, Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Black Flag, and played quite a bit through some of the others. But this is a franchise that, in some ways has become a little bit lukewarm to me, but all the same, I'm still excited every time they announce a new game. I want to play it. And I'm just going to come out the gate and say it. I mean, I think this is the most quality product Ubisoft has released for years, maybe ever, at least from this franchise. So this is good. This is the next open world RPG following in the tracks of Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. But this one is the one that gamers have been waiting for, right? The feudal Japan setting. We asked for this years ago. And then we got Ghost of Tsushima from Sucker Punch. And everybody was kind of like, man, if Ubisoft even wants to do an Assassin's Creed in Japan, I mean, they kind of missed their opportunity. But they decided to say, fuck it, and just go ahead and do it. And you know what? I'm glad that they did, because they're able to add their own unique approach to this. There was still a place in my heart for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, because it just seems so obvious. You could have the shinobi be the assassins, and the samurai could be the Templars, and then that would be a cool little reversal to what we're used to, much like the assassins and the Templars going back to the first game, right? So, I mean, it just seemed like a natural inclusion with shinobi just being already so assassin-like. It just made sense, right? And it's why it's been such a highly requested setting for the franchise. So here we go. Ubisoft finally did it, but how well did they do? Did they nail it? Is this indicative of all of the issues that Ubisoft games tend to have? Well, at least a few of them. But I will say, out of anything that I've played from this franchise in recent years, this feels the most polished, refined. It feels like they actually spent time on this. So, yeah, like I said, right out the gate, as far as the gameplay is concerned, this is quality. This is really as good as the open world Assassin's Creed games get, and possibly as good as the franchise gets. I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for 2 and Brotherhood and Black Flag especially, but and this used to be one of my favorite franchises. Like I said, going back to my childhood, I would have put this in my top 5 years ago, but that's just because I never really got out of my comfort zone and played a lot of other games. Even so, I feel like this surpassed my expectations. It really did. So I made the bold decision to buy this on Mac OS because it was available, and I got a new MacBook Pro, M4 Pro. So I figured, and I don't have any games to play on it. So I figured, fuck it, let's buy this on Mac since it's a game that's available for Mac. Well, it's not optimized as well as I would like, but it's good. I do feel like I probably would have had a better experience playing this on my PS5, and that's sad because my MacBook is actually a beast. I heard that some of the PC players on lower end machines were experiencing some of the same issues. It's just sad that my machine, which is actually pretty beefy, was not realized to its full potential. Some updates have come out that have seemed to have made it better, and maybe I can tweak the settings even more since some time has passed. I'm not too sure, but I will say I don't think I could get this game to run at a consistent 60 frames. Usually just under, unless I was in an environment where there was a lot going on, and then it would slow down to 40 or so. I don't think I had to decrease the resolution and various ray tracing settings to their absolute lowest. I remember I tried that, and when I did that, in at least the what do they call it? There's a mode. I can't think of the term right now, but there's a mode where you can just run through the game, and a benchmark. That's what they call it. In the benchmark, I think I was able to actually hit an average of 60 frames and above if I turned everything all the way down. But then I noticed that the quality of the character models, when rendered slightly farther away, were just not up to par with what I was expecting. But that all being said, it's a gorgeous game. It looks really good. I mean, I think I found the sweet spot. And the frame rate is tolerable, from like 45 to just under 60. That's actually not a bad place to be. But yeah, I just wish that this game had been optimized a little bit better for Mac to be up to par with some of the other versions of this game. As far as, like the quality, like I said, it does feel very polished. I did notice some bugs and glitches. Of course, that's kind of just part of the Ubisoft charm, I would say, at this point. Kind of like with Bethesda, right? It's just something you kind of come to expect, but nothing game-breaking or anything that locked my progression, so I was really happy about that. Very, very minor issues, and in the time since the game has been released, we've got a lot of updates. They've added some things, like I remember in the initial release of the game, the auto ride feature while riding on horseback was not available, and I kind of missed that because that was in the past few Assassin's Creed games. But I was happy when they re-added it. So yeah, and they've even added some new content. Is some Animus stuff that I really haven't dived too far into. I'll tell you guys, I have put in. Actually, I don't know how many hours exactly I've put into this game, but I'll tell you how far I've come. So at the beginning of the game, you do get a little bit of gameplay as both Yasuke and Naoe, introducing you to both characters and how they play. And then for the next, what I've heard online, they say about 10 hours or so. I can't tell you if that actually tracks. I was spending some time in the open world along with progressing the story. You play as strictly Naoe. And then it opens up and you get to freely switch between the two. So that's where I'm at in the game. I'm at the point where the world has opened up a little bit. I've completed some objectives as both characters. And that's really where I wanted to be before I recorded the episode. Maybe might have delayed it a little bit further, but I really wanted to get some time in playing Yasuke. And yeah, I mean, I'm always a stealth-oriented gamer, so Naoe, who is, your traditional Assassin's Creed stealth-like character, it was really my go-to, so I'm happy that the game really focused more on her if it had to be one of the two characters. But Yasuke is a lot of fun to play as well, and it actually did encourage me to explore open combat, which in Assassin's Creed games I don't tend to do. With earlier entries focused primarily on stealth, and with the more recent entries giving you a choice, I was glad that they gave you a choice, but I never wanted to explore that. And in some ways, I feel like it did hinder me because the game wasn't designed around stealth as a primary focus, but rather that you could approach any scenario either way. So it's almost like the game would push me into open combat more than I would have liked. But of course, that just tells you to get better at stealth, right? But both characters are a lot of fun to play, and giving me Yasuke as an option, as a character who was more open combat focused, I think was helpful. The dynamic between the two is actually, it's pretty similar to the way they did the Fry twins in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where you have two playable characters, both have to do with the story, and you will play as both during it. And I feel like that's kind of the best way to go if they really want to push this whole let the player choose a male or female protagonist thing. I don't know why they need to do that. I kind of just I don't mind playing a game as one, or the other. In fact, in some ways, I kind of wish that they had just focused on Naoe, because it does feel like she is the focus of the game as it is. It really feels like the game was designed around Naoe, and that Yasuke was kind of an afterthought. Of course, we do have the Yasuke controversy. Yasuke is a historical figure, real-life historical figure, who was in the service of Oda Nobunaga. And there are some dispute as to whether he was actually a samurai. Ubisoft's statement on this, on the whole issue, is this: that Assassin's Creed has always been a series that is a historical fiction. It is set in a historical setting, but they take some creative liberties to tell a better story and to make a better game. And that's true. I 100% agree with that. I almost feel like they really didn't even need to say that. It's like, we acknowledge that there's some dispute as to whether or not he was a samurai, but this is a game where, we've incorporated some fantasy elements. So it's never been 100% historical accurate. We all know that Leonardo da Vinci wasn't really designing devices for assassins. So I don't really care that Yasuke is a playable character in this game. What does bother me just a little bit, a minor gripe, is that, like I said, he does feel like a bit of an afterthought. It's almost as if maybe they actually had intended originally to have both a male and female Japanese protagonist, and then they were like, oh, what if we did Yasuke? I bet people would really love that. And I'm not going to lie, when they first announced that Yasuke was one of the playable characters, I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, okay. So we're not only going to get to play as a ninja, but we're also going to get to play as a samurai. Let's see how this matches up with Ghost of Tsushima. And hey, it's Yasuke, one of the most badass figures of history. And, it's like, with Yasuke, it's like it doesn't matter whether or not it was historically accurate, because we have works of fiction depicting Yasuke as a samurai already. We have historical fiction that does this. So, it's I never really cared that much. The controversy to me was never really that big of a deal. Like I said, I just feel like he isn't as well implemented in this game as he should have been. Like I said, I think this game was designed around Naoe, and she is the true protagonist. And Yasuke is just kind of like, okay, let's have a male protagonist that is more open combat focused for the players that like that. But I don't feel like he was really integrated into the story all that well. I feel like we didn't. Of course, I haven't finished the story, but I don't feel like we really were given a lot of background. It kind of weird that she spends so many hours as Naoe in the beginning of the game, and then Yasuke just kind of shows up, and we don't even really get like a what was he up to during this time. We don't really get as much of a backstory to him. He doesn't really seem to change much throughout the story. We don't ever get to see the transition, to samurai and all the training that he had to go through. It kind of just skips ahead to that, and there's a point where his and Naoe's story intertwines, and I just feel like it would have been better if we had a little bit more build up. Like maybe if they could have had the amount of time we spent as Naoe and spent the other half as Yasuke building up both of their stories, and then they both come together. That would have been cool. But either way, I'm not angry at the inclusion. I don't think that the existence of two characters hinders the game, even as an open world game but it isn't as implemented as well as it could have been. Like I said, I feel like the immersion is broken a little bit sometimes with the story and the way characters react to either character. And I will say, having to switch between the two does get tedious sometimes, because you'll be exploring and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do this objective as Yasuke because I just unlocked him and I want to kind of try it out and see what his playstyle is. And by the way, once you get Yasuke, you've already accumulated a bunch of mastery points and upgraded the Naoe skill tree quite a bit. What they do is they just straight up give you as many mastery points as you had acquired as Naoe to Yasuke, and then you can immediately just upgrade him up. And without really that system where with Naoe, you would just unlock one perk at a time or one skill at a time and be able to, experiment with it and be able to try it out. And then you go a little bit further and you unlock another thing and you can kind of suit it to your play style. With Yasuke, it's like, well, I really haven't played a lot as this guy. I haven't played him since the beginning of the game, and it was very little. I don't really know much about his moveset, and you're giving me all these options at once, and now I have a bunch of skills that I want to try, and then you're going to throw a bunch of weapons at me at once. That was a little bit jarring. But even so, I was like, okay, Leia, let me go around and let me spend some time as Yasuke, right? And then, I got off track, but this is what I was going to say was, you'll get to a point where like, okay, here's a pagoda that Yasuke just can't climb. He can't even get up to that viewpoint and do the leap of faith. And it is hilarious when he does do the leap of faith. If you can climb up to the viewpoint, then he'll or if you warp there after you've unlocked it, Yasuke will he'll try to dive into the hay or water, whatever. But what's funny is he'll land so like disgracefully, no swan dive. He lands on his ass and he'll actually destroy the hay sack when he lands. It's kind of funny, and it's also funny to see him try to parkour because he's just kind of just wobbly. But yeah, where Naoe is the stealth and the parkour expert, obviously Yasuke is just this powerhouse. And oh my God, once you unlock him, like he is just unbeatable, man. Like combat is just a joke with Yasuke. Maybe I needed to up the difficulty setting a little bit, but I mean, I was like, wow, I have almost too much power. But it kind of makes sense because he's this big hulking African man in Japan, and he dwarfs most of these enemies, and he just effortlessly brutalizes generals and men that have served in the military for years. But yeah, it is kind of cool. And like I said, it did incentivize me to actually try out those gameplay styles and actually just blast through areas, busting down doors and shit, and just completely wrecking everything. But like I said, there's just some things that only Naoe can do. So like you'll come across like a viewpoint or one of the temples where you have to find the lost pages, and you can't do anything except for switch to Naoe. So it's like, okay, now I have to switch back to Naoe, and then can switch back to Yasuke because I wanted to do this particular quest as Yasuke, right? And yeah, or like I was heading in this general direction thinking this was a Yasuke thing, but no, okay, I already got to switch back to Naoe and then switch back. So could have been implemented a little better. I wish there were some things that Yasuke could do that Naoe couldn't. There are some, side quests and whatnot that are specific to one or the two, but I can't really think of anything as far as just exploration goes that you needed Yasuke for. And then, again, that's why I said he does feel like a little bit of an afterthought in the game. Like, okay, let's stick a male protagonist in there because that's what people expect. And yeah, maybe it would have been better if the legendary figure Yasuke was someone you came across in game, as like an ally or something. I don't know. I know some people would have preferred that the male protagonist also be Japanese. I know that there was some controversy, and I don't know if it was just people getting upset on behalf of Japanese people, or there were a lot of Japanese people that actually did take offense. But I mean, like I said, I don't really have much of a stick in this. I like the inclusion of them. I just it does feel like a little bit of a hey, people will like this kind of thing, I don't know. But that being said, there was the other thing. The other thing that Japanese people were apparently that there was a controversy about with the Japanese gamers, and that is that you can climb the torii gates and various other sacred sacred landmarks and whatnot. And here's what I think. I'm not sure why they didn't do this, because I mean the game like gently tells you like, hey, this is offensive. You shouldn't climb these things, but it doesn't penalize you for doing so. Like I don't know why they didn't just have you desynchronize, like if you do it or if you do it too much. Like whenever you kill innocent civilians, right? You can get away with one or two. Maybe it was an accident, but eventually, if you keep doing it, and the game will remind you each time, this character did not do this. This was not part of who they were as a person, and it goes against, because you're experiencing this through the animus, right? And it feels like that's what they could have done with the torii and whatnot. I don't know. That's what I would have thought. Is that, you just desynchronize if you do it too much, as the game reminds you that, like, hey, this is not what this person really did. Speaking of the animus and the present day segment of this game, there is no present day playable segment. It seems like Ubisoft kind of just flip flops on that, and kind of they keep trying to do present day, but they never seem to make it as engaging as Desmond. And hell, even the Desmond stuff wasn't as good as it could have been. It always felt like a break from the action. I'm not one of those people that hated the modern day segments and thought they needed to go away. I just feel like Ubisoft could have spent just a little bit more time on them. And there's a way that they could be implemented in an open world game that would actually make a lot of sense. Like give you some modern day gameplay things that you have to do by the end of the game to progress the story, but you can do them at your leisure, basically. And so you can decide whenever you want to switch between the two. But this game has opted to go to the approach of just no modern day gameplay, just kind of that context. And it'll briefly remind you that, hey, you're playing this through the animus. Like I said, I kind of prefer when there is a modern day gameplay, at least. Hell, even Black Flag and Rogue weren't too bad. I mean, it was a whole different thing, but at least, it was something. But even so, I mean, the game is so fun that you really don't think about it too much, and you're just really enjoying the setting. And God, the world looks great. Like I said, the game looks beautiful, but the way that they've actually created this Japan, it feels about as big as it should be. I think I've heard that it might be smaller than some maps, but it is densely populated, and they've really taken the time to get it closer to the actual real life size, and I appreciate that. And there has been a ton of attention into making this as historically accurate as possible, at least as far as the setting goes, the backdrop. And so, fans of Japanese culture like myself, are really going to appreciate this. And even just how in-depth, I mean, this does feel like a next-generation Assassin's Creed games. That's what I meant when I said, this is about as good as the series gets, at least in terms of its modern entries, because it is really taking full advantage of the power of the consoles that it's on, and you've just got all these particle effects and wind and weather just everywhere, and you'll come into areas and just be astonished by how mesmerizing it is and how easy it is to get lost in the world. And the open world design is great. Like I said, it's densely populated. There's plenty to do and things to find and explore along the way. And it's easy to get off the beaten path. And that's the way that an open world game should be, is give me enough content beyond the main story that actually distracts me from it. That's what you want. You want players to be as engaged with that. And I've always said that Assassin's Creed games historically have done a good job designing side objectives just well enough to be compelling enough for people to participate in them. And yeah.
It's hard to remember. Blood your nightmare.
There is evil at work in our homeland. Greedy lords who bring war.
He comes. Oda Nobunaga. Iga is under attack. This blade, it cannot be taken.
What?
Now's the time.
These people don't care about us.
Blood for blood.
This land will soon be unified by my vision. Is that tyranny?
I ride with you. My whole life, I have been caught on your wind, blown across the world.
I see potential in this man.
The Brock soldier is not one of us. Send him back to wherever he belongs.
He may become a legend, or he may die. Kill me? No. Tools belong in the old world. This is the way forward.
You slaughtered innocents!
The blade. It is you. You are a part of something bigger than this war. Our fates are connected.
We have all seen darkness. Some have been that darkness. Because you believe in my cause, we have come together, despite it all. To bring change, to bring light.
I mean, as far as the open world design goes, the combat, the stealth, I want to talk about that. This is as good as it gets. Stealth is, I mean, this is a good stealth game. And what's crazy is, you know, some of the earlier Assassin's Creed entries for a stealth-focused franchise, you know, kind of sometimes felt like, you know, baby stealth. But this one really is quite deep and complex and challenging, and I really enjoyed it. And I loved the hours that I did spend as Noway just trying to work my way around all these castles and temples and taking out, you know, these Daisho and all the other enemies, and it's really good. And they give you a lot of things to play with, a lot of tools and weapons and skills that you can use. The combat is fluid and fun. You know, it is kind of your standard, you know, deflect and parry type gameplay, but you've got all these abilities that you can use, and both characters have a multitude of weapons that are unique to them. Naoe has the katana and tanto, kusarigama, and of course she has her shinobi tools. Yasuke has his long katana, a naginata, teppo, a bow, teppo being a gun, like a rifle, and the kanabo, which I haven't unlocked yet. I haven't gotten to play with that. And each one of these weapons feels distinct and is fun to use, and it's cool just mixing it up and trying to see. There's plenty of customizable gear that you can use to kind of create a build for each of these characters and fit your play style, you know? So... And, you know, whenever you come across legendary gear, you're going to want to hold on to that. And, you know, maybe you might find some gear with slightly better stats, but you're going to have some perks that are going to be nice. So, but later on, once you upgrade your hideout, you can choose to upgrade the level of legendary gear to get it up to level and have better stats than gear of an associate level, or you can even engrave perks into certain pieces of equipment. So it's really nice. I remember there was a video on Facebook one time that was like, I saw a video on Facebook one time that was kind of trying to make fun of the fact that you had to like switch your hood out in order to assassinate an enemy. And I felt like that was disingenuous, because there are plenty of games like this that have you swap gear out that it will give you slightly better advantages, you know? So yeah, here's a piece of gear that will allow you to actually assassinate it. It'll give you just enough of an edge with your assassination power to actually kill an enemy, rather than having to just take a chunk of their health off and engage in open combat, because then everybody comes after you, right? And then you got to lay a smoke bomb and try to get away, or just fight them all off. And Naoe's not a fighter, just as much as Yasuke is not a stealth. He has kind of his own version of assassinations, but when you're Yasuke, you're just going to come in guns blazing and just brutalize everybody. It's more of just like a kind of a nice opportunity. Like, oh, this guy hasn't noticed me yet. Okay, let me just kill him in one hit. But then after that, it's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But with Naoe, there's going to be a much more strategic approach, and you're going to be trying to push that stealth. And when you get pushed into open combat, it is going to be a little bit more difficult because she doesn't have quite as much power as Yasuke has. So, and I'm glad the game does force you to play that way for a while, because like I said, I always did appreciate the stealth approach to the Assassin's Creed games, and that's the way I like to play. I mean, this is a franchise about assassins. This is the first mainline entry. I don't know if Mirage would count as a mainline entry or not, but besides that one, right, that actually has you playing as someone that's kind of an assassin, right? Because I mean, okay, so Bayek was like one of the original assassins. I guess that counts. But the Odyssey was set before the Brotherhood, and then Ivor was set during the time where there were assassins, but never actually gets inducted into the Brotherhood. So I haven't gotten to any point in the story where Naoe or Yasuke get officially inducted, but they kind of have their own version, kind of like the Hidden Ones. That's like, okay, it's like the Shinobi must have come into contact with the assassins. I'm assuming there's going to be more context provided as I get through the lore of the game, but it's like somebody gave them a hidden blade and they start using, and her father gives it to her. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but I remembered another point I wanted to bring up is the fact that Naoe has just a much more compelling story arc and feels better ingrained into the story. It feels like she has like a lot more to do, and she kind of has this it's Ezio like revenge quest going on, and then kind of trying to get beyond that, finding out how Yasuke was involved in the events, and then coming to terms and actually allying with him. So it's been a fun experience so far. I am enjoying the game, and more than I thought that I would, actually. For a franchise that used to be one of my favorites, I didn't expect it to actually be this good. But it is good, and it's fun, and I can actually easily lose myself for hours in this game. But what's also nice about this game is that you can play it in bite-sized chunks. You can kind of just go a little bit at a time and play a little bit, accomplish a few objectives, and you'll feel like you've actually done quite a bit. So I actually really did appreciate that, especially when I have so many games on my plate right now. So another Ubisoftism is, of course, the microtransactions. I'm happy to say that although they're not obtrusive. I really didn't even notice that they were a thing. So props to them for that. I don't mind microtransactions as long as they're not intrusive, and as long as they don't as long as it doesn't feel like pay to win, right? Where like you can just pay money and do better than other people at getting through the game. But this is a single player game, so it doesn't really matter as much. And I mean, there are even options in the game that allow you to play. Like there's like a guided mode and stuff. So, and that's free, but I think you aren't able to acquire any trophies or achievements if you choose to do that. One other thing that this game does is they did add the branching choices in the game as the past few, as well as the romances. I haven't gotten to any of the romances yet, but from what I've heard, they're just kind of an optional thing that you can ignore if you don't really care about them, or you can do, but they don't really affect anything. That's fine. I did wish that the dialogue choices actually had an effect. I mean, there's literally a mode of the game that allows you to not even make the story choices, to just have the canon option selected for you every time. But, doing that I don't feel like that's the answer. It's like, okay, the story choices are irrelevant, so let's just give the players a mode where they don't even have to make them. No, make them relevant. Make that matter later. But there were some cool things, like there's a tea ceremony that you have to infiltrate as Naoe, where you have to memorize different aspects of the way that it goes and make certain choices that is going to affect how characters perceive you. But as far as I know, it doesn't actually make any difference as far as the game. The story is all right. I've heard of a few people, a few reviewers say that it's not as good as it could have been. Assassin's Creed has done better, and I think I agree with that. The characters, or at least some of them, are interesting, and getting to learn about them. Like I said, I wish they would have done more with Yasuke and actually taken advantage of the whole, like, hey, an African in Japan, but there's really, other than a few offhand comments by some characters throughout the story, I mean, it really doesn't play into it, and I don't feel like they took advantage of that. That's why I think that Yasuke was just kind of like a later inclusion. Like, okay, let's just make it Yasuke, right? But yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, I do really enjoy this game. I enjoy how many objectives there are. I mean, not only do you have all these side quests, but even just completing like the main story will require you to actually assassinate multiple different groups of targets. And Assassin's Creed always kind of has that whole target thing where you have like a group of people that, as the story progresses, you unveil more and more. But what was really cool about this is that there's multiple groups and factions that you're in conflict with, that you have to hunt down. And, once you unlock both characters, they can both participate in and work around this. Because, you'll see like, okay, assassinate this target, and you'll think, okay, this will be better for Nawe. Like I can just sneak in and then just assassinate them. But a lot of these characters are higher level, and if you don't have the right, equipment or skills, you're not going to kill them in one blow, and you're going to trigger open combat. So sometimes it's better to actually bring Yasuke to some of these events, right? So there is a little bit of strategy involved, but mostly it feels like, other than some of the optional objectives, the main objectives really, it didn't make a difference which character you played as. You could kind of just do either or. And I know some people were a little disappointed by that. Me as well. I mean, I would have liked there to do more, It felt like Jacob and Evie from Syndicate, for instance, actually kind of had more of a dynamic. I mean, yeah, you always played as one or the other, and I don't really feel like, thinking back, I can't remember if there were any missions where you brought the two of them in, but it did feel like that was a little bit better implemented. This, like you said, you'll have both characters enter in a cutscene, and then you'll just play as one, and the other is just off screen somewhere, and they don't ever fight together, or at least as far as I've played. And it would have been cool to tackle some bosses that way, where it's like, okay, you'll choose one character, but then the other one will be there like helping you out. Or maybe like you got to focus on the boss and the other character's got to like take care of all these other enemies or something, like something just to remind me that they're there. And otherwise you're just like switching between them, and like, it doesn't even really make all that sense. And like you'll go into a quest and a character will start talking to Yasuke. And then like, if you switch to Nawe, apparently I haven't tried this because I was, strictly going to do it as one character for my own, immersion. But apparently if you switch the other character, the NPCs will just react like you're the same person that they've met, which I guess in the context of the Assassin's Creed Animus thing is fine. I mean, they can explain away a lot of that, even some of just regular video game isms that way. But even so, yeah, it does feel like this game could have benefited with a little bit more to do with Yasuke in particular. Hopefully, like the DLC and extra content will expand on that. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that's exactly what they have in mind, is like, let's give us some like, Yasuke backstory stuff. Let's show what it was like as he was training to be a samurai, or before he even arrived in Japan, right? Because we do get those flashbacks with Nawe whenever you do the Kujiin side missions. So, but overall, I guess we'll go ahead and get into our final thoughts here. I don't want to make this one too long because it's a solo episode and it's a game launch review, and it's a spoiler-free review. But Assassin's Creed Shadows it delivers more than I actually expected. This is actually a quality Ubisoft release. Somehow, they actually, got their shit together and really made something that was even, had less of those Ubisoft-isms and feels like a polished experience. It was a welcome surprise. And it's kind of, I think it's going to reinvigorate interest in the franchise for a lot of people. So, props to them for actually taking a game after Ghost of Tsushima came out and doing some with it. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is the better game. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I mean, there are some things that this game does better, with the benefit of being a video game that was developed for next-gen consoles and the experience of a few years. But even so, like, you know, it's just that's kind of like lightning in a bottle, you know, really. It's like sometimes you come across a game that's just a gem. The story, the gameplay, you know, even despite limitations versus more advanced hardware, just manages to just shine. And then that's what Ghost was, right? And I'm excited for the sequel. But Assassin's Creed Shadows still manages to be not irrelevant. Like, and that's what I thought. Like I said, when Ghost came out, I was like, man, it's almost like they made the feudal Japanese Assassin's Creed that everybody wants irrelevant. But they didn't. Ubisoft managed to actually do something and put their own spin on it. So, you know, props for that. This is easily the best of the open world action RPG Assassin's Creed games, and definitely one of the better ones in the franchise. And it's one of the games that I'm playing right now that I've really had the most fun with. So, but if you enjoyed this episode, stay tuned for what we've got coming up next. Like I mentioned, we are going to do a game launch review on Oblivion and a double feature episode on Expedition 33 and 100 Line. I was thinking about those games, and I was like, man, we're just going to have to add those on to the year in review. And I'm like, no, because Expedition 33 is so fucking good. And Last Defense Academy is also really awesome as well. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about both of those games. But as far as our actual like numbered episodes go, coming up next should be our what was supposed to be our Bad Game April content. So that'll be Hong Kong 97 and Bubsy 3D. We'll try to get both of those episodes out as quickly as possible so we can move on to what was meant to be our May content, Bushido Blade. And well, I think that was originally March content. After that, of course, it's June, and that's going to be the launch of the Nintendo Switch. So with no news on when Metroid Prime 4 is coming out, it looks like that is set to be our season finale. We are going to cover Mario Kart World in part 1 of our season finale, and then in part 2, we'll kind of just do an overview. I think we'll each pick a few games. Dan Rockwood should be joining us for that episode as well. He recently joined us for Hogwarts Legacy Part 2, and that was a blast. Love you, man. Hope you're listening. And Ian, man, if you're listening, sad I didn't get to do this episode with you, but I am excited to do Oblivion Remastered because I mean we absolutely have to do it. It was a shadow drop. It kind of just came like unexpectedly, but we're gonna work around it because it still manages to be relevant much more than this game is, for instance. That's again, like I said, that's why this kind of feels a little bit late, because it's like, you know, is anybody even talking about this anymore? But I'm still seeing posts. I'm reposting them on our social media. Speaking of social media, you can find Collateral Gaming on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. We do have a Patreon where you can get exclusive Let's Play video game commentaries, although we haven't done one in a while. We do have some Let's Play content on YouTube that's free. In fact, just today, as of the time of recording this, I released another Call of Duty Saturday where we did some more Black Ops 6 multiplayer. So you can go check that out on YouTube and also on the Collateral Cinema YouTube channel. And as far as Collateral Cinema content goes, we did just get out our belated episode. This was supposed to be February content, but it was part 2 of our. It was our second anime. It was our second episode of what would have been anime month, and that is Ghost in the Shell. And we also do have out our episode on the California Kid. We actually got that out in advance. Had to do the episodes a little bit out of order. And next we'll be doing Doctor Who, the 50th anniversary special, Day of the Doctor, which was one of my picks. And then after that, we'll be getting into Mean Girls and our season finale, which I'm really excited for, our Redux episode on The Room, which will be my first time actually getting to talk about The Room with Bo and Robert. And I think we have a guest on that episode as well. So, yeah, go listen to all of that. And as mentioned, we did have the Hogwarts Legacy episodes. Megan and I did part 1 together, and then Dan joined us for part 2. So you can go listen to that episode if you haven't. And yes, JKR is a turf, but the game is pretty fun. Credit where credit is due. You can hear more about it in our 2 episodes. And I'm really excited. I mean, Switch 2 is coming out next month. Oh my God, my body is ready. I mentioned Collateral Let's Play earlier, and hopefully soon we should be able to get some more content out besides the Call of Duty stuff, because, I mean, Call of Duty isn't even really like my jig, but I just figured it feels like a natural inclusion for a Let's Play, and it encourages me to play Black Ops 6 more when I would have just kind of not really played it a whole lot unless Zach wanted to hop on with me one day. So it encourages me to play a little bit more, but maybe we can play some more multiplayer games. I'd like to. I've been talking about this for a while, but I'm also just trying to work through our backlog of episodes first. But there's really no reason why I can't record the gameplay of whatever game we're doing on the podcast. So I'd like to do that, and hopefully soon we can bring back Phoenix Wright Wednesdays. But other than that, yeah, you can find both podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, as mentioned. And if you want to show us some love, like I said, the Patreon. Oh, also buy me a coffee. And our merch store has changed. TeePublic now has a new sub-site called Dashery. So I'll have the link in the show notes, of course, but that's collateralmedia.dashery.com. So you can get you some Collateral Media swag. Hey, I did. I'm wearing my Collateral Media podcast shirt right now. I have a Collateral Gaming and a Collateral Cinema shirt as well. We have a director's cut design, and we're going to be introducing new designs as well here very soon. And we don't just have t-shirts, we have just about anything you can think of. So if you want to support the show and get you a little swag, which also helps support the show, right? Because people will see you wear it and be like, hey, what's that podcast? It's happened to me. It has happened to me. Like I'll go up to my local convenience store and the guy will be like, hey, you're in a podcast? Is that your podcast? I'm like, yeah, it is, man. So I'm just kind of waiting for more people to just be like, oh, podcasts, and ask me about it, because I love talking about it. And I love doing these, man. I know there's been kind of a slow of episodes. We've just had a lot of shit going on. We've all been very busy. I've been dealing through some stuff as well, but especially lately. But all the same, we are still going strong, still releasing episodes, and we'll get caught up very soon. And if my girlfriend Bethany is listening to this, I doubt it, because she's not really into gaming. But if you are, hey, how's it going? But all right, folks, I guess that'll be it for now. With all that being said, I've been Ashley Chancellor. I've been enjoying some sake this episode. I forgot to mention that. Let me pour a little shot here, just to end us off with, right? Yeah, that's the stuff. All right. This has been Collateral Gaming, and we are out. Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by the respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.